I'm focused on His spirit cause it keeps me from His fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when He took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, Trump was inaugurated. I wasn't in because I was in DC at the time. I was planning on going to the actual inauguration, but of course that got moved indoors, and they say it was because of the weather. I think a lot of smart people are obviously saying that it was because of security issues, and I believe that to be the case, but because it wasn't actually that cold that day, and that night I did go to the Liberty Ball, and oh my gosh, the line to get in was the craziest thing I've ever probably experienced. Let me save that to the end. If I have time, I'll go into it. If not, I'll just go into it another time. But yeah, it was a crazy day, long day. So I saw the actual inauguration at the Black Conservative Federation hosted a little party. So I went over to the owner's house, and the founder CEO's house, and we had a good time with like-minded individuals watching on TV. And then I went back to the hotel, got dressed for the ball, and the ball was nice. It was just a hassle getting in there, and it was, for people who also experienced the ball, it was not like that in 2017. I don't know why the line was crazy. And it was really, really delayed for how long everything was. Like, we didn't leave probably till about, Nelly was the last act, and he didn't get up on stage till at least maybe after 12:30. So it was a long night, but it was fun. It was historic, and lots of amazing things happened. But I was spending a lot of time driving to DC and on the way back, so I didn't get a lot of chance to write. I didn't get a lot of chance to record. I didn't get a lot of chance to even retweet things and post stuff. So you guys haven't heard much from me. So I have lots of thoughts about different things that have been going on. But today I really kind of want to talk about the Elon situation, and I want to talk about the woke bishop who decided to scold Trump. Those things are really in my wheelhouse, and I have lots of thoughts about them. But Trump is, signing a lot of executive orders, things that he will obviously be challenged in court, like birthright citizenship. I haven't spent a lot of time researching a lot of their argument, so I want to maybe address more of that tomorrow, but it's definitely going to be challenged. My attorney general is already saying that she's going to challenge it. My initial thought is that I think that's something that the Americans have seen so much, that the system has been gamed, and how much people are coming over and taking advantage of birthright citizenship. The idea that you can have a pregnant woman, going through these terrible journeys, putting herself and her child at risk, and other children who may be with her, to get to America so she can birth out an American citizen. I think that should put alarm bells on everybody's head going off. I've heard of certain people who will use surrogacy, like Chinese nationals will get a woman to birth their children so the child will have birthright citizenship. So there's all kinds of ways that we're being taken advantage of, and people have really had enough with the illegal immigration issue. People are on Trump's side in a way that they weren't as much when he first came in. He has a lot more goodwill coming in than he did at the first time. So if he actually wanted to really go ahead and push birthright citizenship, I think legally, as far as getting it done, having either Congress be able to do something, like let's say the Constitution needs to be changed to make the clarification. I think people should really campaign on that and make the blue states who don't want to go along with it have to really defend it. When George W. Bush wanted to go to war, that wasn't something that he had full support of on, but he campaigned, he made the case, and Americans got behind him, which made other people, Democrat senators and so on, Congress people get on board in a way that they weren't before. Now, maybe that's a bad example because you're like, we should have never went to war. But just listen to my point, guys. My point is that presidents can go and make the case. And if they can explain that and make their case to the American people and it's compelling, they will make other people move who they represent, if that's the right way to go. The people can pressure their senators or Congress people to do the right thing, or they'll be voted out. At the end of the day, people respond to money and power, and you need the money to get people on your side, and you need but you don't have power if you don't have their favor. So he could have really tried to make the case the long way around. If there's some clarification that's just kind of needed, perhaps something in the Congress could be written to change those things. And he has the House, though slim margin, and the Senate. So something could be done on that level. The issue with the executive order is that the next person gets in, they can overturn the executive order. Like, he's undoing some things that Biden has done. Biden undid things that Trump did. The next person come in and undo what Trump did. So it's not good to just be issuing out executive orders one after another. You can put a Band-Aid on the situation for a little bit, but you really do need to make a law. You need to go that route. The good thing about bypassing it is if they actually have a strong case, and Trump believes that they have a strong case, to argue against the birthright citizenship, based off of, context and what the framers, of the actual amendment, what it was for. And, if they have a good legal case and they bring it before the Supreme Court and they rule in his favor, then I guess it's over. Unless it's overturned again in the future by the Supreme Court after probably some generations or whatever. So, if it can be. So, lots of really interesting things going on. Another interesting executive order that he signed. He signed a lot of different things. I mean, immediately work on the border and, defended, remain in Mexico, all that stuff immediately. Boom, 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 boom. He's ready to go on day one. But the TikTok ban, it went dark on the 18th. It wasn't even the 19th. It was on Saturday. And by Sunday it was back up, which they were totally playing mind games with, because I don't think the app stores were the ones who shut it down, because when it wasn't even on the 19th, they did it early. And so they shut it down, and they're like, we're working with President Trump though. So I think, they wanted Trump to get the adulation. Trump likes to be buttered up and so on. So Trump ended up, saying that he wouldn't enforce it. You have Republicans like Cotton saying like, nope, this is still the law. But they did turn it back on because they feel that Trump is in their favor, which he is in their favor. And Trump signed a 75-day extension. But does he have the authority to do that? Not according to the law, he doesn't. Like, the extension is supposed to be if they're already working on being divested. Like, there has to be a deal in place, and he has to, make that known to Congress. So there's different things that are actually written into the law, a law that was passed by Congress, a majority of Congress, that the former president signed, said that there had to be certain steps. The president has the authority for the extension, but that was supposed to be before Trump even got in. And they wrote the law to be able to settle all this stuff before Trump got in, so it could be kind of finished with Biden. But Trump went ahead and did the extension. Now, can they legally fight Trump for the extension? And can the extension be overturned? Sure. But since it's just 75 days, that's a long, I'm sorry, that's a short time to litigate all that stuff. Or it would take maybe longer than 75 days. So is it worth really arguing and going back and forth and getting it all the way to like try to have the Supreme Court maybe shut down or other courts do it, because they'll just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Is it worth for 75 days if he really is going to maybe somehow force a sale? Maybe not, but just in general, like, he doesn't actually it's not a great move. But a lot of people are obviously happy on TikTok. So anyway, I did miss you guys. And thank you, April. Said nice today. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will. People were saying I was lucky to go to the Liberty Ball. It was fun. It was just, the line was insane. When I say insane, I mean insane to get in. Not just how long it was, but how it was actually handled was insane. But anyway, let's talk about these wokies. So Donald Trump won, and these wokies still can't help themselves. They still can't help themselves, and if they don't learn their lessons, they're going to lose. Now, the thing about the Democrats, they kind of learned some lessons in 2016. They kind of regrouped, and they decided to have a different approach on different people that they ran. And they tried not to go too crazy with some of the people that they ran. Trump was prickly toward a lot of women, so they did run a lot of, like, I don't know, forgive me for this term, I guess, milquetoast white ladies to run and stuff. Like in Michigan, we saw a bunch. That was when you had like Alyssa Slotkin and Haley Stevens and other folks like that, and they weren't running like they were too radical, but so they were trying to appear like we're some moderate ladies to balance out this crazy Trump guy who's in here. And so they are radicals, though, with many of their positions, but they weren't trying to portray themselves that way. So they were trying to adjust again. Now, I don't know if they'll wise up, but to me, it seems like they're ready to just throw in the kitchen sink right now. They're ready to go. They're their same old tactics. And the obvious way that they're ready to just start going with their tactics is the Elon Musk situation. So Elon Musk, obviously a big part in Trump getting elected. And someone had asked me a question on a video that I posted on the day of the inauguration. And they wrote a comment and said, how do I feel about all these billionaires being at the inauguration in like the area where he's supposed to be with a close family and stuff? And so many people mention that, like, oh, he's above like his cabinet position. Yeah, because they're in this seating area of where he wanted like friends and family to be, and he gave them those spots. That's why they're there, not because they're more important, but they're there. But when you create those many jobs, it is like you do have a pretty important role in America, I think. But not beyond all the power that they have, they did do like ultimately a good thing with supplying so many jobs in innovating America, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, the funny thing about Elon is that we all know he didn't vote for Trump back in 2016. We know that. He said he voted, I'm sorry, not 2016. We probably didn't either then, but we know he voted for Joe Biden back in 2020. He has said that. He used to be on their side. And now he's not. And he's talked about it many times, but one of the reasons why he said that he can't be on the Democrat side is because he doesn't think they're kind, that they're bullies. And then they do these kinds of tactics. They were going after him anyway, but now they're saying that he's doing like a Hitler salute and all that stuff. And it's just not true. And it's blatantly not true. They don't care about context. They just want to attack whoever they want to attack. And That's why these people switch, because of crazy stuff like that. I saw a video. Dave Rubin was talking about to Stephen A. Smith, um, and Stephen A. Smith said that he probably would have voted for Trump, or he might have voted for Trump if he hadn't already voted by the time Obama started trashing black men. Which I kept watching Stephen A. Smith clips pop up, and I'm like, I don't understand why he's trashing these Democrats so much, but he's still gonna vote for them, because he's complaining about them like every day, pretty hard, going pretty tough. But he still was gonna vote for them, and the reason why, I guess he was gonna vote for them, and he didn't like adamantly say I'm pro them or whatever, but he had already voted by then. He did early voting. But he didn't like how Obama was going out talking about black men. And he didn't like how Kamala Harris said that she wouldn't change anything. And so he had all these complaints, but people just had enough. People who were on the left, people who were voting Democrats. You know, Stephen A. Smith isn't like a radical or anything like that, and was never a radical, but they've just had enough of this crazy stuff. So if you're mad about Elon being on the right, it's your fault. It's the left's fault for being as crazy as they are. Jeff Bezos, like, he said, we're just going to try to be neutral and not do a recommendation for who should be the president, which at this point in time, maybe if people were paying attention, they probably thought Kamala there's a good chance she's going to lose. So why put yourself out there anyway? But he just like, we're going to not endorse somebody. And then so many people who worked at his paper were furious. So many readers decided to leave because they just decided to be neutral. This is where democracy dies in darkness. That's supposed to be their motto, and they're not supposed to pick teams. That's what the journalists say. We're journalists. We don't pick teams. They obviously pick teams. So they're Meta, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, trashing the Obama administration. I'm sorry, not the Obama administration, the Biden administration, for how they were trying to censor and pressure them. Now, I don't think Mark is a hero, because at the end of the day, I mean, there's some things, I guess, that they didn't take down, but he was talking about how they wanted them to take down memes and other stuff like that. And he's not cool with it, and he wants there to be a change. So yes, there's a shift that has happened. There is a shift that has happened, but the shift wouldn't be so necessary if they weren't so crazy. If they weren't so crazy. I saw a video today. I just replied to it. I hadn't posted yet. But so I recorded it, but it's not up yet. FYI. Someone who has a big following, I don't know who they are on TikTok, but they said, okay, so everyone is saying that the left needs to shift after this election. The left needs to shift. But I have a question. Is the right going to shift after this election? Are they going to rethink this? And I first saw it because I saw someone respond to his video, and they kind of went through history and different times when Republicans did shift. But I'm like, this is crazy. The whole freaking country has shifted to the left. The entire country is to the left. The whole country has moved. And there's no appreciation for how to the left or how moderate or centrist Trump actually was and decided how he was when he ran. No appreciation for it. And we won. The right won. The Republicans won. And now you want us to make concessions? That's crazy. We won. And he said it was a very close election. It's not like it was a blowout. It is a blowout when you lose every single swing state. It is a blowout when you lose every single swing state. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, I understand that the popular vote was very close, but yes, that's not how we run our country. Just by popular vote, popular demand. That's not how we do things to make sure the minority interest is protected anyway. So we have the Electoral College, so we can make sure that the country is properly represented. Okay. So that's not how we run things anyway. But when you lose every single flipping swing state, and by the way, if the Electoral College was properly dished out with the census, because they didn't do it exactly correct, it would have been a bigger blowout. It would have been a bigger blowout. So your side lost, but we got to make concessions. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's just not. They certainly wouldn't operate that way if things were reversed with the left. That when Obama won, do you know what he's told McCain? He's like, I won. That was his attitude. I won. Get in line, I won. By the way, that was Trump's attitude with the inauguration speech a bit too. Like, you tried, you failed. You tried, you failed. And I'm looking you dead in the eye, like, you tried, you failed. I'm here. and it wasn't necessarily I'm coming for all of you, but it was very much I'm going to make sure that you guys can't do the same shady stuff that you did for me. And by the way, I remember that you did this shady stuff to me. That was the attitude. That was the vibe. Don't wound what you can't kill. You shot and you missed. Like, that was the vibe of Donald Trump's whole inauguration speech. But yeah, we won. So why would we concede? But the crazy thing is that Trump already was in the middle. He was the moderate. He did things. You guys, if you followed me for a while, you know he said things, took positions that I didn't like because they weren't to the right enough to the right. If you ran him against Clinton from the 90s, Trump would be to the left of Bill Clinton on many things. Bill Clinton signed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Obama ran and he wasn't for gay marriage. That was something they decided after the fact. Hillary Clinton used to say that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. That was her position. Joe Biden used to say an abortion is always a tragedy. Those were their positions. Now the Democrat position is anytime, any place, anywhere, as long as the woman wants it, don't obstruct her. Don't obstruct her. Don't even convince her. Don't spend the time trying to convince her not to do it. If she wants it, she's got to have it. No gestational limits. Oh, we're not even going to vote to make sure that you mandate care for the child who survives an abortion. That's how extreme they are on this issue. And Donald Trump, they made sure when they did the RNC platform, there were people upset that it didn't like define marriages between a man and a woman, and the gay Republicans were like mocking the religious right on Twitter. Saying, oh yeah, it's over bigots, stuff like that. I didn't like that. But I'm just telling you what happened. And with the pro-life issue, they made sure to silence pro-lifers so they could change the platform to make the 14th Amendment is in there, but they just reference due process, but they don't reference that basically the children shouldn't be deprived of their right to life without the due process and stuff. So they make it known that the states can decide. But before, the platform was every state should recognize, like federally, that they should be protecting these persons and the unborn are persons. So Trump saying everybody just wanted to go back to states. That wasn't true. That wasn't our position. We wanted it banned, like nationally. Nationally, we wanted Roe v. Wade overturned, but we wanted it to be banned. And the Supreme Court took a soft position on it too. You can say, well, they radically changed so much. You can argue amongst yourselves on your state levels, and you can make it as radical as you want, or you can limit it how you want, but you can still just travel to another state if you really want the abortion that bad. You can find a way to get the pills to your state if you really want the abortion that bad. But it's still available to you. You can still go get one somehow, some way. But they could have ruled on the question of personhood and said that personhood applies to the preborn. That could have been argued and it could have been over. They didn't go as extreme as they could have. And there's just no appreciation for all the little compromises that people have made throughout the years, particularly Donald Trump. They still lied and said that he wanted to ban abortion nationwide. They were lying, saying there's going to be pregnancy registries, which wasn't even in Project 2025. All these lies nonstop. So I've said this before. This election makes me just appreciate the fact that I'm very conservative and sticking to my guns, because at the end of the day, you can say you're going to change your positions and try to compromise and meet them in the middle, but they still don't care, and they're going to lie about your position anyway. They still lied about Trump's position anyway. So he could have just, tried to argue the right thing, because people cared more about the border and the price of eggs Anyway, which by the way, have y'all seen Democrats saying, well, Trump has been in office for a few hours now and the price of eggs are still high? I'm not like Harry Sisson on TikTok. He was one of those people who did that. There's people tweeting out about how the prices of eggs are still too high right now. What is Trump doing about the price of eggs? And some people are rightfully pointing out how the price of eggs get so high. Are you saying that there's a problem with the price of eggs? There has been. Is there someone who we can point toward right now? We can say that happened on their watch. It takes a minute to fix issues. He definitely wasn't going to be able to fix the problem in a couple of hours. So these people are ridiculous. They're not going to give him any grace. His enemies aren't going to give them grace, but a lot of Americans are going to give him grace because, again, they see how absolutely flippin' crazy these people are. So let's talk about Elon first, and then we will talk about the super woke bishop tongue lashing situation that happened. Let's talk about that. So Elon Musk was with Trump. They had a good time, during the inauguration. And so he came out, this is like during the parade rally, and he made a gesture, and these crazy people think that he gave some kind of Nazi salute. So we're going to go ahead and watch it. Yeah, we're going to watch it instead of like just showing you a still, so you guys can see what actually happened.
This is what victory feels like. Yeah! And this was no ordinary victory. This was a fork in the road of human civilization. Okay. This there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important, some are not. But this one this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured. Thanks to you. We're going to have safe cities, finally, safe cities. Secure borders, sensible spending, basic stuff. And we're going to take Doge to Mars.
So there's other clips where you can see him turn around and the camera didn't cut, but he does the gesture again. But sorry, it's the other one. But he's just, my heart goes out to you. Now there's some people on like TikTok and different places saying, who are far left, and they're saying, oh, if there's nothing wrong with what he did, then you do it. And then people do videos of, my heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you. Like, that's what he did. And someone in the comments said that their child, their mother of an autistic child, so they have a soft spot for Elon. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because in the video where there was a Black woman who just did the my heart goes out to you gesture to prove there was nothing wrong with it, there were parents in the comments saying, I asked my autistic child to do like, I guess a gesture where they're throwing out their heart, and they did the same thing as Elon. And there was a couple parents who said that, and they started to say, they seemed concerned about how people might view how their child does something. You could take it out of context and just assume so many terrible things about them. So, and some people are like, well, Elon's not a child, he should know. Like, he's throwing his heart out there. He clearly said, my heart goes out to all of you. And it's just not reasonable to think, if you're just a rational person, this person who traveled to Ben Shapiro to I think did they go to Auschwitz together? Like who went to Israel in the midst of their war to support, to really learn about it, to support them, that he's like, oh no, really, I'm actually like pro Hitler. Like, no, 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 guys, no. It doesn't make sense. And you know what is really annoying? You know, it's really annoying that we have lived in a world where people have been terrorizing Jewish kids on college campuses. There have been people who have killed Jewish people, who have ran into their homes, murdered them, ran them out of different places and buildings across the world, where people have marched in the streets saying globalize intifada, where people have said from the river to the sea, and people have tried to bend over backwards trying to explain why that wasn't about Jewish extermination and why that wasn't anti-Semitic, when the roots of those things absolutely are. And there's a lot of dumb kids who march around and they don't know better, unfortunately. But there's plenty of people who do know better, who start those things, and people jump on the bandwagons. There have been people who try to delegitimize the response to trying to get their hostages back and defeat Hamas by continuously saying that Israel was waging a genocide, not caring about what the actual definition of genocide, or the fact that their numbers as far as like casualty ratio and all the ways that they went about to try to minimize harm was a lot more humane than other countries, including how the United States conducts urban warfare. And we went through a pretty intense thread explaining like all the things that Israel was doing versus like the United States and other countries. And yeah, they take more time to minimize casualties than other countries do. It's pretty insane. Like people who were, I've seen people justify what happened October 7th, or say, well, I'm not going to say it's justified, but, and then they go on and they justify it. Like, well, when you live in an open air prison, when you do, you've been no friend to the Jewish people over the past ever, I guess, but really recently. And you want to cry about Elon Musk throwing his heart out to everybody, saying thank you for working so hard, thank you for this win. This was that could have been the end of civilization. This was a huge deal in election, and I do believe it was a huge deal. And the way that you've seen the shift as far as like some of the stuff with censorship or Facebook and all those folks, I think it's a bigger deal than maybe I anticipated with Trump's victory. And it's a good thing that it happened. It's a good thing that it happened. So other people have brought to folks' attention that there's lots of people who throw their hands up in the air doing some kind of wave, and they make a still image, and all of a sudden it looks like, oh my gosh, they're praising, Nazis are doing Nazi gestures. Pictures with, Hillary and Obama. Let me see if here we go. Here's a nice tweet I got for you guys. Obama, Hillary, Elizabeth Warren, and then Kamala. And so people have posted these stills and they're like, okay, show the whole video. And they're just waving. They're waving, doing different stuff. But if you take a still, you can make folks look like anything. Someone found one of like Taylor Swift. I posted that on Facebook. There's Tim Walz with his hand up in the air. Now, this kid Parker, he's a big TikTok person. I don't know where the context of this is from, but apparently the context actually isn't good, but I'm not sure. Older millennial pointed out, but he's a big friend of Harry Sisson and Dean Withers. Like they're all in that kind of young Democrat propagandist. But yeah, that's him doing. That's a really straight arm, and he's alone in his in a room by himself, not waving out to a crowd. So very interesting. Very interesting. So if this is the route they want to go, straight up like Nazi hoax day one, most people have had enough of that. Now there's people on the left who are doubling down and saying, no, 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 this is clear. The ADL, by the way, dismissed it. But if they want to go ahead and they want to push this stuff, be my guest, I guess. It'll just be another hoax in the hoax pile, which, by the way, like the Very Fine People hoax that did a lot of damage to Trump throughout his administration. And there's people who still believe it to this day. But a lot of people eventually learned that Trump didn't call neo-Nazis very fine people. But once they learned recently that Obama was pushing that lie, there's been quite a few videos of people who really had a lot of respect for Obama, like Joe Rogan, for example. And then they saw Obama push the Very Fine People hoax. And they're like, oh my gosh, all these people freaking lie. And that's a pretty damning lie. That's a pretty damaging lie intended to not only damage Trump, but also damage his supporters, damage like half the country, and sow division. Really, really crazy division. It's one of the most disgusting and evil lies that they told and that they pushed. I remembered thinking about this Elon situation, because they demand the context for these images that I showed of like Obama and Elizabeth Warren and Hillary Clinton and stuff. Like there's context, and the context is that they're waving, right? And someone did a still. If you take a still, it looks like a Hitler salute, but obviously it's not meant to be that way. And it's not meant to be that way with Elon. But they don't care about the actual context with the Elon situation because he's their enemy. And I was thinking about the kid, Nick Sandman, I think was his name, who was at some kind of march or rally or something. And there was this Native American gentleman just dancing in front of him. And he was all up in his face. There was an adult male all up in the face of a child. And he just stood there and he smiled. And they painted this kid as if he was some kind of disrespectful villain. And there are people, adults tweeting out that he had a punchable face. And he ended up, getting a settlement from different news organizations for how they portrayed him. But it was so unnecessary for people to see that image of that kid and decide that he had done something wrong, decide that he had done something so evil. But you know what? He seemed to be on the wrong side. Therefore, they had to destroy him. And the facts just didn't matter anymore. The facts didn't matter. So if that's the team you want to continue to play for, you can go ahead and play for that team. But it's wrong. And most Americans, I think, are waking up to it because they did have a chaotic 4 years under Trump, and because the media made it that way. And they did have a chaotic 4 years after Trump because life was actual chaos for people. Crime and the border exploding and having to live under the COVID tyranny and their money just being non-existent. And what little money that they got didn't go as far as it needed to go because the prices were so high. So yeah, they're willing to go back to Trump. And they're going to give him a lot more grace than he had first time around. And he's learned a lot since then. He seems to be more prepared since then. And I expect a lot of things will be kind of more like a well-oiled machine. So you can play the game if you want to. And apparently they want to play the game. But it's not going to end well for these people. It's not going to end well for these people. Speaking of lies, by the way, there's a new hit on Pete Hegseth. And the hit is from, I believe, NBC. And they concocted a story from, I think, that his ex-wife's sister, saying, inferring that there's physical abuse. And they contacted his ex-wife, who didn't want to talk about him, but did say that that didn't happen. And then they ran the story anyway and didn't really lead with the headlines mentioning the fact that the wife denied it. So if you have a story and there's someone alleging rumors and stuff, and then you go talk to like the primary source and they say it didn't happen, why is there still a story? Why is there still a story? Because it's not about the truth, it's about a character smear. Just like the media was gung-ho, as ProPublica wanted to do a story about how, oh, Pete Hegseth lied about going to a certain college, and it wasn't true, and thank God he had his acceptance letter. But the way they were contacting his staff, saying, oh, why did you lie about this? They say they don't have it on record. Well, they were wrong. And it's a good thing that he kept his letter from all those years ago. They don't care about the truth. They just want to achieve their political ends. They just want to achieve their political ends. And if it's not Pete, it's going to be somebody else. From my understanding, the only two people that Trump kind of had in mind was Pete and Ron DeSantis. But a lot of Trump's people don't want Ron for whatever reason, and just, I guess, can't get over the drama of the I don't know, the primary or whatever. And there are people who used to work for DeSantis who are working for Trump who don't like him, but anymore. But his team was adamantly against it. So I don't think it's a good thing for Ron to even bother leaving governor of Florida right now anyway. But he's just gonna find someone else that you don't like. So why play these games? Just so you can feel like you scored a win? At least attack him on things where there's merit. But to run a story when his ex-wife already denied the allegations, how do you have a story? How can you be a major news organization and run that? Like, if you were some kind of tabloid rag running gossip, that would be one thing. That would be one thing. There's a lot of flaws with Pete. And he had to turn his life around. He didn't treat women the best, but to try to put it out there about him abusing somebody, and the person who was supposed to be the victim denied it. That's what you want to run with? Knowing that we went through the whole Kavanaugh situation? Come on now. But they haven't learned. They haven't learned. We got to move on to this crazy priest. So there's this crazy priest. I'm sorry, not priest, bishop, sorry. Who decided to lecture Trump and JD Vance, I guess, and all his family who had to sit through the service. Now, I've been thinking about all the kinds of things that I would do if I were president and how my inauguration would go and what I would, what kind of performers that I would have and stuff. And I would not, I don't care how historic or whatever this church or whatever is. I just, we'd just be doing something different. Okay. We'd just be doing something different. But, let's go ahead in case you guys didn't hear it. Let's watch her call out Trump.
Millions have put their trust. Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
Okay, so yeah, their faces were, that's a good shot with Trump there. JD, people were talking about JD Vance's faces. Some people were saying that Tiffany was making some good faces. Melania is just like stone cold, like, but you know what? Oh my gosh, if this was me and my family or just some of our church members, it would just, maybe I don't know how many people at Bible study probably saw this. Maybe I'll have to do like record the reaction to this. But our faces would just be like super viral. Our reactions would be so viral, and we would just not be that like dead on camera polite while she was saying crazy stuff. We just would not be. And even if there weren't cameras on us and it wasn't like a national stage, just being in a church and people saying crazy off the wall stuff, like our faces would have exploded. Gosh, where to begin? Recognizing the dignity of all people. Let's start there. Trump really mentioned that in his first inaugural speech, and he was talking about born and unborn. So many people on the left do not recognize the dignity of all people. You have to provide you have to reach some kind of level of development. You have to provide some kind of utility to be someone who they consider to even be a person. I haven't posted this video yet, but I've talked about how Lila Rose was on Jubilee, and she's talking to this one woman named Dana, and she asked her, should Scott Peterson have been charged for killing his wife Lacey and his son Connor? And she said no. She thought he only should have been charged for harming Lacey. Connor was like 8 months. 8 months. Definitely could have lived outside the womb, but she still said you have to be born. And Lila even said at one point, you're using dehumanizing language, and she said yes. Okay? So they don't care about the dignity of all people. Some people have to literally be out of the womb. Some people they have to reach a certain point of development where they've have consciousness and could have conscious experience, like present conscious experience, not just that being part of our nature and capability. So people have these different points of where they want to consider someone to be a person. Back in the day, it might have been like you're black, so you can't be a person. Like, people have all these parameters. But you know what? We are made in the image of God. That should be the parameter. That should be the parameter of human dignity. Okay, that should be it. Where are the lectures of don't kill the children? The trans stuff. There are trans kids. No, there's not. No, there's not. There are kids who believe that they're trans who are terrified, but that's because they are surrounded by mentally ill parents, mentally ill society that decided to inflict their mental illness onto these children and inject all of these irrational fears within them. Guess what? Donald Trump signed an executive order saying that there are two genders. Did he Thanos snap anyone out of existence? I don't think so. That didn't happen. Probably would make a really funny skit. I don't know how long it would survive on social media, but no one got Thanos snapped out of existence because there's only two genders. Everyone's still standing and saying that there's people who are scared for their lives. That doesn't mean just because someone has a fear doesn't mean that it's rational. Someone should talk some common sense into these children. Donald Trump is not obligated to make up where you have failed as a parent. He is not obligated to do that. To comfort your child saying, I'm not going to kill you. It should be evident that that's not going to happen. And saying that, oh, people are afraid that they're going to lose their kids. People have lost their children. People have lost custody of their children because they would not allow some stranger to butcher them. So that part really ticks me off. The father fighting for his child. There was a mother who was left-wing in Illinois who lost custody of her child. And she's all feminist, all this stuff, but she's just like, I'm not going to accept that there's something wrong with your body. So she can only communicate with her child through letters. What about the mother who lost custody of her daughter and they wouldn't allow her to see her without supervision? And they said, you can't talk about religion. You can't talk about all these things with your child. And eventually I think that stopped too. And she found out that her daughter stepped in front of a train to end her life. People have lost custody of their children. People were afraid that they would continue to lose custody of their child. Let's say their ex, and they share custody, and they believe all this gender identity stuff, and they can use it and put all these crazy ideas in the minds of their kids, and end up getting custody because a woke judge says, oh, you're not good for them. And then they start altering their bodies, doing irreversible damage to the child. This stuff is already going on. Where's your compassion for those parents who don't want to see their kids butchered for a fantasy, for a silly idea that can never be actualized? Where's your compassion for them? So many things to say. So I, minister in my church. Lots of people, only minister at church. It's not appropriate to do stuff like this. I don't think it's appropriate. You don't create sermons to attack people. I've always been taught that you'll be led by the Spirit. You teach what the Lord lays on your heart. If it may touch certain people that you're aware of their situation, but you know what? You speak what the Lord lays on your heart, not intending to target someone so you can give a lecture to them from on high. Because first of all, you don't even know how they're going to receive it anyway. The Lord knows that. You don't know that. So you could just be wasting your time and actually continuing to harden someone's heart. And what she's saying isn't the gospel anyway. She's very confused about what is right and what is wrong. Very, very confused. So, there's tons of people saying she shouldn't be doing it anyway because she's a woman, but there's all kinds of things that are wrong with what she's doing. Now, I'm not saying that you can't correct people, but I think there's a proper way in which you go about that. But this is an activist who's been itching to lecture Donald Trump by her own admission. She's been trying to lecture him for a while. She finally got her golden opportunity. So she took it. But there was nothing, There was nothing loving or right or compassionate. There was nothing that about the fruits of the Spirit within her little lecture that she gave. And people can say, well, you're supposed to treat others the way you want to be treated. It's like, okay, and you're supposed to love your neighbor, and that's just all that they go off of. Just love your neighbor. That's why we can accept all this stuff. Just love your neighbor. Okay, but if you're talking about the second greatest commandment, there was the first greatest commandment. To love God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. And if you're not loving God by trying to honor and keep his commandments, then you're failing, ma'am. You can't just pick and choose when you know that things that are sexually immoral are very much addressed in the Bible, in the Old and the New Testament. You can't just ignore all the parts that you don't like. And to have the audacity to lecture someone who came into office being pro like LGBT stuff. Well, not maybe so much the T, but they've had gay marriages at Mar-a-Lago. He said, I'm going to protect these people. You have the log cabin Republicans were celebrating because they altered the platform, tweaked it very minorly, but it was minor enough that they were happy about it. And they were even criticizing the religious right people were speaking out against it, calling them bigots. So this is someone who's already moved to the left-wing position compared to like conservatives and Christians anyway. And it's still not enough for you people because you're so hyper hysterical. You can't just take the win. You should be happy. You should be happy. And it's still not enough. It's still not enough. Why? Because he says there's two genders? Because he doesn't want you to teach all this crazy stuff in schools? Because Ron DeSantis signed a parental rights and education bill? It's just too far? Because he ran an ad talking about how Kamala Harris wanted to use taxpayer-funded dollars for criminals to be able to have their sex surgeries, for illegal detainees to have their transition, care met by the dime of the U.S. taxpayer. He's just too far. He's too radical for you people. He's too far to the right. Donald Trump is he doesn't have ideological leanings. He's just a very a common sense person. He's persuadable. So people on the right who are very upset about stuff, at least he's persuadable. Katie Britt convinced him of the IVF after one conversation. He didn't know much about it. It's oh, it sounds like we need to protect that. I don't think he's heard any other objections to certain things. I doubt if someone asked him sir, have you actually seen a video of an abortion? I don't think the answer would be yes. I think he's very persuadable on things if the right people got around him and had conversations with him. He doesn't have ideological leanings. His most ideological thing is don't rip America off. I'm the president. I want America to be great. That's kind of where he is. That's where he is. But this person was a radical who just wanted to lecture people. And I don't think that's what you should do from the authority of the pulpit. Again, I'm not saying it's not inappropriate to sometimes rebuke people, but there are ways that you go about that. You just don't start, act like you're getting on your bully pulpit to just demolish someone when they come in the church, like you're headhunting or something. That's not how it works. I don't think it's appropriate. Not at all. What she did. Not only what she said, but what she did. But there's quite a few things from her activism. Let me see. There was a post from her from 2020, but there was something else from her saying that she wanted to talk to him. But to play this video.
Our primary focus. We are upset about the fire as well, but that is not our primary focus. Our primary focus is the reason behind, the fundamental reasons behind the protests in our country right now. There is a deep desire for the fundamental issues at stake, brought to light by the murderous death of George Floyd and the countless others that we've witnessed in this long string of violence against Black and brown people, that needs to be addressed in a systemic, fundamental way in the from every police department in the country and the vigilante civilian actions that are taken. The gospel of Jesus and the teachings of the scripture are antithetical to the messages that he is communicating and the way he's responding to people in this moment, and that there is no spiritual mantle of authority for the actions that he had just moments before said that he would take.
You told the Washington Post yesterday, and I'm quoting, everything this president has said and done is to inflame violence. We need moral leadership, and he's done everything to divide us. Is there any way to begin to heal this breach that you're describing?
Well, we see examples of people attempting that across the country. The police officials and officers who are moving into the crowds to speak to them, the people who are acknowledging pain and seeking to make fundamental change for the good of the nation, and in particular for the safety and dignity of Black and brown people in this country. So yes, there are any number of steps that any one of us can make, including the president, to heal the breach. But it isn't by inflaming emotions. It's trying to bring them down and trying to offer a word of unity rather than division.
Yeah. So during like the 2020 stuff, there was the church that they were at. Some people tried to burn it down. Protesters tried to burn it down, and that was the church where Donald Trump went and he held up a Bible. Unfortunately, he held it up upside down. But people tried to say that he cleared out, had protesters gas so he could go and do a photo op, which wasn't true. But that was like a lie. That was, people believed it for at least an entire year. But they were trying to get those protesters out so they could put up fencing because, people were setting stuff on fire, doing a bunch of crazy stuff. So yeah, that's Trump's fault. All that stuff happened. He's too divisive, blah, blah, blah. You're not concerned about people actually burning down the churches. You're concerned about why are people so upset? Because of false narratives that people continuously kept pushing throughout the country. That's why. Because BLM, which is just like a Marxist organization, that's their background, that's their philosophy, who doesn't care about Black fathers. That's not their priorities, or wasn't their priorities. It didn't care about the nuclear family. It was actually kind of opposed, not kind of, they're opposed to the traditional nuclear family. All the ways that you can enrich the Black community, they didn't really care. Most of their money they poured into LGBT stuff that they had to kind of dish out. Their priorities was LGBT stuff and advancing of Marxism. But they were spreading the idea that cops were going out and basically assassinating people. And they pushed that narrative. And it just wasn't true. And a lot of people were stirred up and upset. And there were some viral moments we are aware of that put the country in a frenzy, but that never gave anyone the right to do all this crazy stuff. And I never appreciated, and it really, in fact, it infuriated me when people would pretend like all this stuff was somehow justified. All this collateral damage was somehow justified. It just drove me up a wall. Like 2020 sucked for so many different reasons, but I was so frustrated with the entire world. I felt like I'm not literally the only sane person left, because there's people in my circle who obviously were sane. But I felt like very alone on the island of sanity as people just really bowed down to this BLM nonsense, and the hashtags were everywhere, and the black squares, and just pushing all these false narratives. So this is someone who's had it out for Trump, didn't like Trump, and had a lot to say for a long time. And finally got the opportunity to say stuff. And what did she say? A bunch of stuff that's nonsense. A bunch of nonsensical crap. She was on The View today. Oh gosh, I found it. clip of her saying that I've given up trying to speak to Trump. We need to replace him.
For all brown and black.
Why did you want to come out here and send
Their message? It is a message of a call for justice, for swift justice for George Floyd, for systemic justice for all brown and black people who have been under the knee of this country in ways that we have witnessed time and again. This is wrong. And this rising up, this spontaneous uprising of people, mostly half my age or younger, they're the ones we should be listening to.
And they're angry at the president.
They're so angry.
They're angry at the president. So what is your message to President Trump today?
Well, I've given up speaking to President Trump. We need to replace President Trump. We need leadership that will lead us in the ways that this country deserves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, you know, that reminds me, I was watching coverage of the inauguration. This is right after the inauguration. Gosh, I can't remember what channel it was on. But we were watching it over it was the Black Conservative Federation's party. And they were talking about the prayers that happened. And they were saying, oh, it's just so partisan. And if you're a person of faith, you should be praying for the outcomes of certain people to win and so on. And I'm like, that is cap. That is, I got to find the clip because I have to respond to it. But it was just so insane to me to say that, because there's obviously bad and corrupt leaders that you don't want to win. And you're supposed to pray for all those in authority, that you could live that you may live a quiet and peaceable life. But it's important who ends up being the head of wherever you have to live. So you should pray, but why wouldn't you want to pray that the right people get involved and the right people lead and people who are going to be just and care about justice being done, you know, and righteousness. So this person was a far leftist and said, we need to replace Trump. I'm done talking to him. We need to replace him. And they did get him out of there for a little while, but he's back. But people on the left, they pray for their certain outcomes, and people were crying like, why would the Lord let the outcome this happen to Kamala Harris? Why? And I'm like, y'all don't know that she's evil? Y'all don't know that she's evil? The thing that she supports is evil? I got my complaints about Trump, but guys, like, she was evil. Come on, guys. Come on. So they play games. Some of the most famous gospel singers that, you know, supported and came out for Kamala and other, you know, people who were very famous evangelicals, Black evangelicals for Kamala Harris, they pick sides. They pray for a different outcome. So trying to pretend like people don't pray or shouldn't pray. I think there's certain people, it's obvious like we shouldn't want them or pray for them to be the leaders. But to say that people shouldn't pray, but you can make the case that maybe people shouldn't pray for Trump. I mean, pray for him to be the winner. But he was obviously better than the other outcome. But if you want to say that in general because you don't like certain things that he does, okay. But y'all dislike him for the wrong reasons. I gotta find that clip. But it was just wild to me. Like, we shouldn't be praying for certain outcomes or certain. What do you mean we shouldn't be? So anyway, this very divisive woman decided to go on The View. So we know one of the reasons why she did what she did is because she wanted to lecture from her level of authority to make herself feel so self-righteous. It wasn't to advance the gospel, because she didn't really minister that, you know, and really preach things that were contrary and just to the Bible and just contrary to reality anyway. So here we go on The View.
Thank you. So let me ask you this. You seem to have more fearlessness than anyone in Congress right now, ma'am. What made you decide to use that opportunity for this message, or didn't you have any apprehension about it?
My response, thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be with you today. My responsibility that morning, yesterday morning, was to reflect, to pray with the nation for unity. And as I was pondering what are the foundations of unity, I wanted to emphasize respecting the honor and dignity of every human being, basic honesty and humility. And then I also realized that that unity requires this.
Again, I just want to reiterate that you guys heard it. I didn't hear her say anything about the dignity of all human beings, even the ones in the womb, which, by the way, there's a long church history of seeing abortion as murder. Like, that's something that's early church history that that you can find within it. So sometimes people try to pretend like it's just a recent thing with Christians. Like, I don't know, like when Roe v. Wade, when they wanted to bring that down originally, and they just kind of made up the position that God is against abortion. But no, there's a long, I mean, you believe you can read the actual Bible and come to that conclusion. That's one of the reasons why I have my book. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion, but there's early church history that it's clear that they thought of abortion as murder. Maybe there's different conversations that people had about when life begins, but we definitely know when it does. So the big question is, are we made in the image of God? And the answer is yes. And so we all do possess that human dignity. But I didn't hear her advocate for the preborn. I just heard her advocate for trans kids. And she did mention people picking crops and all that stuff. And you guys sound terrible. You know, like there's all these things, like they're cleaning our toilets, and it's giving Kelly Osbourne vibes when she's like, if you deport all the illegals, then who's going to clean your toilets, Donald Trump? Like they're all saying this stuff that, that she got backlash back then, but that's where they are at now. Like, we want our cheap grapes, we want our we want the very cheap labor when they come and they clean the crap off of our toilets. That's what they're saying. Like, consider all these people as they do these menial tasks that we don't want to do and pay, and we don't want to have to pay people well for them. So we have to keep, basically doing these slave wages for these people who don't have other options. Do you think that sounds godly? Like this particular sort of attitude you have going on there? I don't think it is. And if you really, well, I don't think it sounds godly, but if you really wanted to preach unity, I don't know why you'd come on The View. I don't know why you come on The View and you keep going about this activist route. But you're an activist, and there are plenty of people in ministry that do have political positions. But that doesn't mean that they're straight up activists. Like, this person is an activist. So.
Certain degree of mercy and compassion and understanding. And so knowing that a lot of people, as I said, in our country right now are really scared, I wanted to take the opportunity in the context of that of service for unity to say we need to treat everyone with dignity, and we need to be merciful. And I was trying to counter the narrative that is so divisive and polarizing, and in which real people are being harmed.
Okay. Bishop, I was struck by your tone. You were so gentle.
Just because people are gentle doesn't mean that they're kind. Like, shut up, Anna. Just shut up. Especially since she called said Snoop Dogg and all those folks who decided to perform for Trump were like trained SEALs, which Snoop Dogg is pretty interesting because he said some very negative stuff in the past, but I guess he's getting that coin or whatever. In the case of Nelly, though, Nelly performed at the Liberty Ball, and he's from a military family background. Like, he was asked about performing, and he just respects the office of the presidency. It's an honor. And let me see if I can find that clip because we haven't talked about that. That happened prior to the inauguration. Might have happened, and I think maybe he talked about it before I started going down to DC. But if you haven't seen this clip, let me go ahead and play this.
My city, and I thought you was riding with me because I put on for my city and I try to bring my city up every step of the way. I did not know you was riding with me because you thought I would ride for who you voted for. I didn't know that. I apologize. I apologize. I didn't know that I had to agree with your political choices. And I thought it was the things that you do, not the things that you say should be done. If you follow what I do, this shouldn't even be an argument. He's the president. He won. This isn't a campaign. This isn't an RNC. I'm not out on the political campaign. I didn't get none of that 1.5. You see what I'm saying? Like to try to help somebody get voted.
Kamala didn't invite you to
No. She didn't invite me.
She didn't invite me either, man. I was gonna do all at home.
Like so, but I don't knock the ones that did. I don't knock the brothers and sisters that benefited from it. I don't knock the correspondents that may have gotten money to do that. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this because it's an honor. I respect the office. It don't matter who is in office. The same way that our men and women, our brothers and sisters who protect this country have to go to war and have to put their life on the line for whoever in office. So if they can put their life on the line for whoever in office, I can damn sure perform for whoever.
What do you say to the people that say we're not giving you this backlash because?
Wait, hold on. So I do want to just reiterate there that when he was at the Liberty Ball before he like performed and stuff, that they did a video about his background, and he comes from a military family. So when he says he respects the office and people put their lives on the line, you know, and go at the behest of like the commander in chief and stuff, that's real. That comes from a real background and perspective. So he's correct that this isn't a political thing, like it's not a rally or whatever. Trump did win. And if people are serious, this is what bothered me. So many people are like, oh, is Trump going to be able to unify the country? Is Trump going to be able to unify the country? Well, the losers apparently don't want the country to be unified when they're mad that someone is just going to go perform at the inauguration of the person who won. By the way, when I went to the inauguration in 2016, there were Democrats there who I met, who we had great cordial conversations with. I'm not saying there weren't Democrats this time around. I just, you know, didn't talk to a lot of strangers, but you know, so people come to celebrate what has happened. And there is a mandate. You can feel the cultural shift. You can say that the popular vote was very tight. That's not what we go off of anyway, but he did win all the swing states. Kamala Harris didn't really improve in the counties, like wine country and stuff, sure. But Donald Trump made so many gains. And even in places where he lost, there were a lot of Republican gains where they might have problems in New Jersey and other places like that in the future if the trends continue. The Democrats thought they're going to have a shot at Texas, not if all their good stuff that they worked out, you know, continues to be wiped out like it was last time. So there was a pendulum swing, a hard pendulum swing. So it does feel like there's a mandate. So if you want unity, you need to kind of analyze why you're so out of step. And you need to analyze all the lies that people told you about Trump over the years, all the lies that Kamala Harris was feeding you, and just wake up to maybe he's not the best person in the world, but he's definitely not as bad as people were trying to make it seem, which Nellie is going to point out here and then is in this next bit right here.
Of your political affiliation or your political choice or whatever, we're giving you this backlash because you are propping up a white supremacist.
I would ask them to show me where he's a white supremacist, and here's the thing. Okay, I get it. He did say if you don't vote for me, you're not black, right? Oh no, that wasn't him. That wasn't him. That wasn't him. Hold on. I'm trying to think. Hold on. He did create
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
He did create the crime bill in the 90s, which said that if you get caught with 5 grams of crack, you do a mandatory 5 years. That had mass incarceration. I think even the Vice President Kamala spoke on that part that said that the crime bill played a huge part. No, he didn't do that. Let me see. What did he do? I'm trying to think. The white supremacist. Hold on. I'm gonna get to it. Okay, he did not rent to black people. What was it, in the 70s or the 80s? Is that what they said? And like, oh, okay, is he written to him now? So nobody's allowed to change, right? See, here's the thing. So we can talk about past, but we never want to talk about our past. If our past get brought up in our community for a lot of what our men did, we always call it rehabilitate. Yo, these young brothers, we've been through a lot. I know I've been through a lot. If my past was what was going to prevent me from winning today, I wouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that he ain't got some fucked up ways. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's why I'm not telling you who to vote for. But what I'm saying is that he's the president of the United States. He's not the candidate for the United States. He's the president. He won.
And it's just really that simple. Now, there's more to it with the background of the story of the renting situation. Donald Trump was renting to people who, you know, in his clubs who they folks weren't renting to back in the day. So, and he got all kinds of different awards from civil rights groups and was hanging out with, you know, people were rapping about Donald Trump. People didn't think he was a racist until, I know it's cliche because people hear it so many times. People would say people didn't say that he was a racist until he decided to run for president. That's when people decided that he was a racist. So I really like what he said there, not just calling out, you know, Bill Clinton and Joe Biden, but also saying that people do change and they can be rehabilitated. And you need to look at what they're doing today, not always just hold past things against them. If you can see that people have really made big strides to make the change and be the change, and people would mention other things like, oh, one of the first things that people usually bring up is Central Park 5 stuff, but I wrote an article about what he actually wrote in the paper. I recommend you guys go read it. I'll have to cover that more at a different time, and probably maybe go into maybe the renter story and other sort of hoaxes that people have involving Donald Trump. So I break past this barrier why so many people hate him, and so maybe they can be healed in their hearts or whatever. But the question is, what is he doing now? What is he going to do for the country? And there's just not enough legitimate reasons for the level of vitriol that people have toward him. And again, at the end of the day, he won, and it's an honor. So he came and he performed, and he performed really late, really, really, really late. It was the very last thing. They probably wanted him to be the last act, so people wouldn't have left like super early. I don't know if he knew that he wasn't going to perform till like 12:30. But God bless him, you know, for at least waiting all that time to do that. Now, we didn't listen to secular music growing up, or at least we weren't allowed to. So I've never, I would even say to this day, have like searched for Nelly, like music videos or his music, nothing on Spotify or iTunes or anything. But I'm aware of Nelly's music. Like people would play it, they played it on the bus, and it's in movies. Like I've heard Hot in Here quite a bit from just watching the movie Austen Land, which is a movie about a Jane Austen fanatic, and someone like bought this property where you go through the different romances with the actors there. And there was one woman who, the main character, they wanted to play piano, and she's like, I only know one song. and they're like, oh, well, just go ahead and play it. And so it was hot in here. And at the end, they have like all the cast members dancing to It's Getting Hot in Here. And so it's pretty funny. But his stuff is everywhere and has been everywhere. And there were some people, I had posted a video of him performing, and some people were like, oh, they didn't even know his music. They don't. I'm like, there's people singing it in front of me and dancing behind me, and the crowd wasn't like super hype, at least the area where I was at. But it was 12. It was 12. It was almost 1 a.m, and it was a long day. But those people definitely knew who he was, and they stayed to hear him. And they announced that he was going to perform at 12, and then they brought up a speed painter. And then they took a while after the speed painter to get everything ready. So people waited, and Trump had gone and left by then. And a lot of people did leave after Trump, came and did his dance, and like a lot of people left, but there was still a lot remaining. And I found that out after we all went to our coat check. And I'm like, why is A through L this long? I'm like, because they did it by alphabetical order, which they didn't check our names or anything. So I don't know why, other than like to organize. But A through L had too many people, and the line was still really long. It moved fast though, but there were a lot of people left at the end of the night still. So I appreciate his stance and the words that he said. I don't like love his music. I understand it's iconic and stuff. It's just not my thing. But I appreciate that he did not allow people to bully him out of doing this, and his response to the haters. But he said, if you've been following him, you ought to know what his position would have been on all this. To briefly, well, how much time? We're already over. We're already over. I don't have any of my pictures up. I will talk about the ball some more tomorrow. I'll talk about the experience more tomorrow. I did meet Brett Cooper, by the way. So that was cool. My sisters met Jim Caviezel. I found a place to rest my poor feet when they found him. Jim Caviezel, he was in Person of Interest. He was in, he just did Sound of Freedom. But obviously he played Jesus in The Passion of Christ. So that was cool. They met a comedian. I wasn't there at the time. I did see Ben from Am I Racist again. So we had a good conversation. And he introduced me to some people, not any like the main stars from Daily Wire, but people who definitely have their hands in some things. So it was a really cool night. But it was a long day. It was a long day. My body kind of still hurts from like between the driving and being on my feet for so long. And I got some sandals, guys, with like a little tiny heel. And they were sparkly, and they were in so my feet were cold because I didn't have any tights on, but I'm like, I'm just gonna thug it out. It'll be okay. But I didn't expect to be outside for so long. And so by the end of the night, all of our feet just hurt so bad. And everybody was wearing like flats, but we were just standing for so long, especially being outside for so long. It just was unpleasant. And my heart went out to everyone who didn't bring a coat. Don't understand that. Maybe they didn't know there's a coat check. And to the people who wore high-heeled shoes, the women who wore high-heeled shoes. Because I've been through that pain, but I can't even imagine if I had worn those heels this time around, knowing that the line was so long and took so long. Like, we were out there for like 2.5 hours, and there are people who were out there longer than we were. So I'll have to tell more about that story tomorrow. There's so much I want to say to you guys. It's already halfway in the week, and I didn't get to see you guys and talk to you guys because I was traveling. And oh gosh, before I do let you guys go, I do have to mention that Donald Trump did respond to the lecture they did ask him about it before. There's a video of him saying that he just thought it was boring. But Donald Trump did actually write like a 12 a.m. tweet about it. So let me go ahead and read that. This so-called bishop who spoke at the National Prayer Service on Tuesday morning was a radical left, hardline Trump hater, which is true. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. She did. She was nasty in tone. Not the actual tone of like she raised the voice or whatever, but it was delusional, and not compelling or smart. She failed to mention the large number of illegal immigrants that came into our country and killed people. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. It is a giant crime wave that is taking place in the USA. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was very boring, an uninspiring one. She is not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology. So that was Trump's response. And if it were me, there's no way, especially knowing how woke those folks are. I know it's like tradition or whatever, but I don't know. I would have still had a service. But if they wouldn't have let me like rent out the place and bring in like someone I wanted to hear, we would have just had it somewhere else. If it was me, and I'm the president, and I can do what I want, that's what I would have did. That's what I would have did. I would have brought in one of them evangelicals, and we would have had us a good service. Okay. We would have had us a little toe tapping service that would have been more exciting for me, I guess. But I wouldn't have did it. I wouldn't have did it. Congrats on them for keeping their faces the way that they did, but my face would have been all kinds of speeches just popping off of the page. I wouldn't have been no good. Absolutely not. But yeah, it couldn't have been me. And you know what? It wouldn't have been me. We would have made some changes. I wouldn't have sat there and been lectured from the likes of her. No way. But I guess good on him for saving it for a tweet later, I guess. But now this will be a bigger story probably. But you know what? It just continues to make them look awful. And the resistance folks will eat it up or whatever. She was on The View, she was on CNN, and they'll eat it up, but normies, they're not gonna love it. They're not gonna love it. So this is unusual. But people like her in the woke progressive churches, it's unusual. People don't like that stuff. People who are going back to church like the more traditional kind of realness of the gospel, not this nonsense. So anyway, God bless you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream and run my site, all that good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that's available. You guys can check out my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available on Amazon in paperback or ebook, so go ahead and check that out. You guys can also check out many of my other books that I've made as well. Black History Month is coming up, so we got some cool merch you guys can get, like Be Better Not Bitter, and we have where's the Frederick Douglass shirt? The Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document. That's a cool one. And just check out what we got at the store, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm glad I got home safely. The storm was so bad driving to DC, and we left late. It was like driving through warp speed. It was just like black and white streams of snow just coming at us, as if they, like, if you watch like Star Trek and they go like warp speed where it's just like the darkness and then the light of the stars. That's what it was like driving to DC for a while, and it kept coming in spurts. So it was rough, but we made it in one piece, made it home, obviously. And I'll have more to say. And we didn't take a ton of pictures, but we got a couple, so I'll go ahead and share some of those tomorrow too. God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.